Good. So I wanted to go live simply because, you know, there's probably a little bit of confusion about what I do and who I am. Okay. So I'm normal, regular smegular, you know what I'm saying? Um, literally went through my spiritual awakening, going through the average stuff that people go through. How I knew that I was a shaman, a healer. Um, how did I know? I knew I was able to talk to the dead. How did I know? So let me just answer these questions, right? So, as a child, um, I was always different. I always idolized Jesus. Like, I knew I was different, but I just admired the fact that this man gave his life, and I pray every day that um, I was able to help him. Like, you know, and let's just say when I was a young, also young, and you remember when they had those kids that um, you could sponsor from another country. Well, I had one. And I used to do my allowance, just waiting to get my allowance so I could send. I didn't care if I ate or what I had. I didn't want no candy. I just wanted to give. So I grew up with this whole vulnerable, gullible type of mentality, not knowing how to say no, not knowing how to protect myself, right? So when I found out I had a sacred heart, the best thing about a sacred heart is that you just lead with love. The hardest part about the sacred heart in the school called Earth is so many narcissists. So I had to learn to defend myself, learn to protect myself. It's something that I didn't know how to do easily. I didn't know how to be narcissistic. I didn't know how to be, you know what I mean? So I had to learn that. And as a kid, I always knew what was going to happen. So my sister went to prison for 20, 23 years. I called my dad. I was like, I had a dream. And I was in a castle. And this guy had a shotgun. I told him, don't shoot her, shoot me. So this dude shot me in my dream. But I didn't care because I was dying for my sister, but he shot her too. So he goes and found out that the stepmom set her own daughter up. Like, he was just crazy. Anyway, in the dream. So as I told my dad this, he was like, "Oh, your sister just went to prison." Woo, woo, woo. I was like, "Wow, this is when I'm in the streets. Like, I'm still in the mud." Like, um, so then one time I saw my brother, the brother I grew up with, right? Same mom and dad, same household. But we grew up like worlds apart. He basically tried to kill himself or whatever. Um, and due to a lack, right? And I literally knew what was going to happen. I knew he was going to die. Um, and then the amazing part was that when he said that when he died, he came back, when he was in his dream, I was in his dream, and I told him to come to the door. And so when he seen me at the door, he followed me. He woke up, right? And so that was amazing. So all this stuff was happening. Like, then I was in the streets, I'm talking about. I just knew stuff was going to happen, even in the streets. Like, I was, thinking I was so good now. But back in the day, I used to be all like just new people. Like, I was healing people, and I didn't even know it. So I'm like, this is deep. This is like real deep. I don't know, dude. Like, I'm not like that. And then I I'm just having these dreams, Then this crazy stuff starts to happen. I'm not even a drug person. I just ran into the worst people. Just ran into the worst people that had to toughen me up. You know what I'm saying? But once I mastered the sense of alchemy, so take these hard times and turn them into a diamond. You know, it transformed into power. So when everything started happening, mind you, I'm a good person. Like, there's people that's jealous of me, envious of me, and I ain't that type of person. I don't even look. I don't even think about nobody. I'm just keep it up. My mind is. I don't live so many lives. I'm a shepherd. I'm not really worried about fleshly stuff. But it was crazy because I've been at a young age. But so many people directed their bad energy at me that I never understood why. I understand why, but it was something about me, right? You know? And this is being very humble. I had to realize who I was in order to step into my power. You understand what I'm saying? Don't get me misconstrued with narcissism and selfishness. I'm being confident and I'm standing on my throne. You feel me? Um, so, and I learned from the best. Let me just say that. You know what I'm saying? My spirit is what I came here with, but as far as knowing how to be a boss and keep my flesh together, yeah, I'm getting out from the best. But spiritually, um, I am spirit. And it's crazy because I would go places, meet people. I used to just want to go to hospices and pray to people. I used to just want to go to the hospital and pray to people. I used to just want to love on people, no matter what. Um, but in this world, it makes you think it's like a curse, like it's bad. But then spirits took hold of me and started getting me together, and I started having visions. I had this dream. I got this golden night right here. And so after I get this molden night, I have this dream of some extraterrestrials. I'm not kidding. I'm looking in the front of the spaceship like the homie had like some lips on him that was funny. It wasn't his lips. It was like some type of lips, some like type of red lips. It was funny. I was like, and I looked at him and I said, but he had all the big eyes. I don't know if y'all know about the grays. If y'all watch it, it's a gray, right? And I'm like, well, I'm not freaking out. And he like, cuz you had questions, and I'm like, yeah, I did. I was like, why do I consider myself an angel? Why do I consider him say it? Why do I know I speak to the dead? I just needed clarification, you know. And they were like, because you are an angel. Like I went in this trance until I got this crystal. And I'm like, hold on, wait. This the one that's been abused, bullied, and some more stuff. Like, I'm not expecting to be that guy, right? So I'm like, but this is okay. So then I'm just knowing stuff. Like I'm just running to people. I start seeing guardian angels, and I start seeing stuff like, and this is the stuff I see on like Long Island Medium and stuff. Great. I used to always watch. I didn't know why I was intrigued by the shows. I knew because I knew I was special. I didn't know I was how special. Right? So, so then I literally get another something spirits like good because they're like preparing me. So I run into people. I mean, I'm seeing everything. Right? And then I go to a drumming ceremony. I sit at this drumming ceremony and I go into a trance, and all I see is a white light. And I see a white elk just walk across, and all I seen was the word elk. And the last place I seen an elk was on that movie Shadow and Bone, where if they had a piece of the elk, then the elk would give them the gift of God, right? And I was thinking, like, wow, this is deep. So the lady who was at the drumming was a Wiccan. I wasn't, at that time, I'm like, okay, whatever. You want to go have some tea, But something was weird because she was a high priestess, and she was like, you are the ancient Egyptian Pharisee. So at that moment, I'm like, we research. So I'm literally the reincarnation of ancient, powerful, magical people, right, that chose to come here in the pressure that I had in order to become a diamond, for my abilities to manifest, so I can help raise the vibrations of humanity. I'm something new, I'm not. I'm for the new era, right? Which is interesting for little old me, right? So after that, I go into another. After that, next thing I start seeing animals talking. I'm starting this. I mean, everything just. So then, next thing you know, I'm having more in-depth sessions with clients, um, and then I get another crystal that Spirit told me to get, and next thing you know, I see I'm in a corridor like Star Wars, and I'm silly, so even in Spirit, I'm silly. So I'm like, this is interesting. Like, I'm walking. You have the ascended masters to your right. You have the watchers in the like to your left, and then the angels is like up there to the right. And you have source. You can feel source. You can't see him. It's like a color, like a royal blue color. And I'm like, this is cool. Like, they're like, well, you've reached spiritual perfection, and um, you're telling me I'm just a very powerful being in the universe, and that I'm here to bring some new gifts to humanity, to show them that God exists, um, and that I was a 144,000, and that I'm supposed to wake other 144,000 and lead millions of people to a higher consciousness. So I'm like, okay, this is cool, and I did not want to wake up because the energy of the utmost high light, you just don't want to wake up. So I'm like, this is real, So then I wake up, and then I'm like, and then so now they talk to me, and they're like, you know, it's very interesting. So I'm doing a live reading as well. So I have my friend who's clicking in. All right, he's been he went from client to my friend. That's also going through a spiritual awakening. What's up, Russ?
Hey, how are you?
What's goody?
Nothing much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. How
I
are
was just,
you?
I was just telling everybody about the journey, the spiritual journey,
Hmm.
and my crazy dreams. That would be crazy to someone in the 3D, of course, right?
Right.
Um, but you would definitely have to be woke to really, for it to resonate. So I was just telling them about the dream when I was like in the corridor, like the Star Wars corridor,
Hmm.
and it was like Source was to the front, but you couldn't see him, and then you had the ascended masters and angels, and they were telling me I was spiritual perfection that I later realized was alchemy.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying? And so just tell them that little old me hearing this amazing information, who's been through the mud, it's like, and then you start seeing guardian angels and stuff like that. And then when I when I started reading you months ago, what, how long was that? About a year ago. Um, we had some breakthroughs.
Agreed.
We had grandmother come through. We did a reading about a friend.
Yes, I remember both of those. Definitely intense for me.
Yeah, what was your experience dealing with me as a spirit medium?
Oh my gosh. It was very different because you see it all the time. And like me, I have my own personal gift. So it's kind of like I'm used to seeing other people that are gifted like me, but not this intense, not that magnitude. So you kind of like, with me, I'm sometimes guarded when it comes to certain things because I'm like, this just can't be real. Like, this just can't be real. So then it was like, when you spoke on my grandma, I was like, wait. I was like, no, like, like, he doesn't know me. He doesn't know anything about me, so he can't pick. He
Yeah,
can't. It's like he
about the same.
investigated, but it was very eye opening because now I really grasp that you know the extent to how far our gifts can go, but it also showed me how far I can go within my own journey. So instead of me doubting my gift, instead of me doubting a lot of things that I see, it caused me to pay attention a lot more. And it also taught me how I can spot now the difference between someone who's being fraudulent and doing things based off emotion
Yeah.
versus someone who's actually functioning properly in their gift and using it how it's intended to be used. It's a big difference.
So tell me, we were talking about you being gifted, right?
Right.
We were talking about how, in order to get to that place of, well, let's be clear, everybody don't have abilities, right? Everybody could reach a place of peace and heaven on earth, right?
Agree.
But so we won't, because we don't want to push a false narrative that everybody could be a medium, right?
Everybody can handle the responsibility.
So you gotta have some type of lineage, powerful lineage, in order to back that shaman blood and spirit up, or you could self-destruct. And
Agreed.
um, that's why a lot of people that think they can handle spirit, it end up, it goes a whole nother way, you know. So tell me, as far as when we did the last reading, like, how is the love life doing after we
Oh
still
my
left the baby
gosh.
behind, or what?
So many things have shifted in various directions.
And you,
Huh?
you're starting to choose you, right?
I have. And it is a very, it's so crazy because my sister tells me a lot lately. She's just like, I love this. I love this. I love this. Like,
I see your
um,
hair done.
huh?
I see your hair on Instagram.
Yeah, I added a little bit to it or a lot to it. But the love life is very, um, the one person that we talked about, I the person's still around, but the relationship has shifted to where I've pulled away. But then I've also met somebody new that is very things I was asking for a year. I asked for a year from one person. This one person has started to give me what I asked for in 3 weeks.
That's good. That's a blessing. How do you feel like we've been doing on your spiritual shadow work? Like,
Oh my gosh.
do you feel like you 100% is in love with yourself right now, or do you feel like, because I don't, one thing that about the 3D world is easy to fall into, like a lustful relationship, to self medicate emotionally,
Right.
so to speak. So is it
This is
like, do you feel as if this is like a temporary med, or do you feel what I'm saying, or do you feel like,
honestly no, because the intentions when first meeting weren't this. The intentions when meeting on both ends were just for fun. And then it turned into conversation. Then it turned into checking on daily. How are you doing? Did you eat today? How was dialysis? Did you get your rest? How's work going? Then it turned into, well, let's go out to eat. And then it turned into, we got to do this again. Then it turned into, it's turned into more more. It's intense because it's different. It's not even about the physical. We laugh and we joke about the physical because there's definitely a physical attraction, but the desire that's being fulfilled is more so mental stimulation. But it wasn't what we were looking for in the beginning. So I would have to say that in my honest heart, this is temporary, but the primary focus is still me. And as long as my needs are being met, I can make sure the other person's needs are being met. And I'm being met halfway, which is very different for me. But we'll see the outcome.
Because in the culture, it's definitely like I think a pandemic in its own is
Right.
codependency, and it's like I think in my life I suffered from codependency, like it was like murder,
Hmm.
and so and it was like something that I was addicted to,
Hmm.
and it just brought the wrong people that just wanted to.
But you know what I realized though? I think that sometimes it's kind of like how that whole biblical saying, what the enemy meant for evil, God used for my good kind of thing. And I think a lot of times we meet people which trick us into thinking it's for the best intentions, but it's honestly to suppress who we really are. Because at the end of the day, what the enemy does, or what negative energy, or whatever you believe in, for anybody who's watching, you know, it knows us better than we know ourselves at times, and it knows what insecurities to play on. So if you have daddy issues,
The
mommy
beast.
issues, yes, the beast, insecurities about your body, your weight, anything, you'll always meet somebody that'll play on it. They'll play on it to make you feel like, they care about those things, but they're playing on your emotions to get what they want, but they're depleting you
So
in the
is
worst way
that what
possible.
happened? Do you feel like that happened?
And for years with multiple people. With the last person that you and I talked about in depth, I'm going to be
Yeah,
very
what's up with
trans.
it?
I'm going to be very transparent. With him, I feel like he had the best intentions, but they were misguided because there was still a need that he wanted. And I can't sit there and say that he's a total horrible person, but I had the conversation and I explained. I said, I healed a lot. I was forced to heal a lot of different areas, but I was hurting in that same place. You know, so I can't necessarily say that he's a bad person. I could just sit there and say that he was used in a way that he wasn't expected. But I will sit there and say that not all is bad because look at who I am now.
But I mean, if you want to keep it above, like don't. That's a he wasn't. Sometimes we could be such good people that we do not keep it above.
Agreed.
And I wasn't able to step into my power until I learned how to say this shit is fucked up. Excuse my language. You know,
Fact.
I couldn't step into my power if when I stopped being gullible.
Agreed.
And friend, yeah, you can read up real long.
Huh?
People take advantage and use you. And
Yeah.
you don't have to. It's okay to cut them off. I had to learn that like just recently. You know, you gotta cut folks off because they got that lifeline. You understand what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
can't allow this to happen. Spirit is telling me to ask about mom.
Interesting. Because I was just thinking about her when you were talking about cutting people off. Um, she's getting married on Monday. It's a lot of tension surrounding it. But where I'm at with her, I'm vocalizing my boundaries and I'm vocalizing the putting of me first because I've dealt with a lot coming from her. I've dealt with a lot of, yeah, and it's like this wedding I don't want to go to because it's kind of like I don't want to go places where I don't feel like my presence is desired, and I don't want to be places where I feel like my presence isn't appreciated, you know?
No, for sure.
And, huh?
For sure.
So she what?
I said, oh, for sure. That's real.
Yeah, and it's like I had to be honest with myself. But what I noticed I had a bad habit of doing is I would feel some kind of way, but I would never address it, and then I would go to these places upset and pissed off, not realizing that I don't have to be there. I don't have to be there. I don't have to deal with that stuff. So I have the ability to decide where I do and don't want to go. At 34 years old, if I don't want to go, I can stay my ass at home. You know, whether it's my mom, my brother, my sister, I have that ability to say, I don't feel at peace when I come here. And I addressed it with her. I said how I felt. She kind of was doing her regular routine of flipping the script on me. And, I'm going because in my heart, I prayed about it and everything. And it was like, okay, Russell, go, go. But go on your terms. And I'm going on my terms and nobody else's.
So do you feel like mom isn't like really happy? She's just
Not at all. Not at all. I know my mom. I know my mom. I know how she thinks. I know how she works. And I've learned that a lot of my bad habits that I have, I got from her and my dad.
so that's spirit talking. When you hear me talking, that's spirit talking. But you know that. You know that.
Yeah, I do. I know how this works.
You would. So your heart. That's why I picked it up because your heart is like, damn. I would support mom if I knew my heart was happy.
Yeah, because like I'm a mama's boy at heart, and I will always say this: is my mom is my Achilles heel. She is, everybody has that one person who's their Achilles heel, and my mom is mine. You know, and that is something that I'm
That's
working
beautiful.
through slowly. Because mind you, like I said, I'm going through a lot of changes, and all of them are at once. So it's like I'm processing different emotions with different people all at once and navigating and also embracing this new, not new because this person's always been, but I'm embracing who I truly am. So
So spirit saying he reckless with his mouth.
who?
Spirit saying her who mom is marrying, saying he's
Oh my
reckless
God,
with
it's
his mouth.
terrible. He's very reckless, and I don't like that. He's very homophobic. Very homophobic. And with me, I just keep feeling like there's secrets or there are things not being said. And I've learned to follow what my energy is telling me and what I'm feeling. And I don't feel like you ever just go around somebody and you're not comfortable. And it's
So
like
he's saying,
it's something, but it's not even a red light. It's like it's something screaming at you saying, no, move, no, move. That's exactly what I feel every time I'm around him.
and that's why you gotta secure your happiness because you're right.
You know, and I've learned also it's like I have to start listening to what my spirit is telling me. I have to listen to what God is telling me. I have to start listening because all the warnings that I ignored put me in worse situations.
Yeah. Well, I
But
congratulate you for that codependency because people don't
oh
understand
gosh,
sometimes just because of their role in your life, just
right,
because of who they are. Um, your job is to serve God and to be codependent upon Him. So if you got somebody, mother, father, whoever, that you feel like you got to be codependent upon, and their energy is not conducive to your soul progression, you're failing the test if you stay.
agreed. And I think
Showing
that
that
was my
forward
problem the
step
whole
hard.
time. That was my problem the whole time, and you've called it out before, you know. But it's I'm hard headed, as we can see. But at the end of the day, it just turned into. At the end of the day, it just turned into like I had to stop letting childhood excuse me, and insecurities control how I
Yeah,
handled
come on,
myself.
preach. So you say childhood trauma, come on now.
Yeah, and that's the
That's
reality
an
to
epidemic
it.
in the culture.
Agree, especially in ours, especially as black men. There's a lot of things that we go through, and black gay men. It's like they always say it's hard being a black man, but it's even harder being a black gay man. You know, and
And
it's
being bisexual, they won't call me everything. Like I'm
oh, y'all are catching the worst end of the stick at times.
listen.
But it's just people don't understand that we're the ones. And the crazy part about I've noticed is
I'm
that
gonna say bye because I went on a date with a trans man, so I know what that is.
no, I've always wanted to do that before. To be honest with you, I've always wanted to do that before, which is weird. But don't judge me. Well, you're not, but anyways.
I'm a good date.
But
I hold you up.
I just feel like I've noticed that a lot of people that are gifted usually are us.
The two spirits, yeah, the two spirits. But
His,
back in native tribes, back
mm-hmm,
in the day, the shamans in them, they were two spirits. They would have feminine, they were feminine. People would research
mm-hmm,
the oracles, the ancient, um, powerful priests, and all that. Don't get it confused with the Catholic priests. But the old shamans, you know what I'm saying, the tribes, they would be like two spirits, the divine masculine and feminine. People don't really
right,
understand that in order to be divine masculine and feminine, you have to had to live male and female lives in all your lives. And so
I
they're
call it duality.
to one life. And so you cannot just love. It's not about the fleshly sexual perversion of it. It's the
Agreed.
love everyone. That's the foundation.
You have to embrace both so they can properly function. When one is needed, it steps in, and the other one takes a back seat, and vice versa. But you have to understand that you have to have the understanding that you can't have one without the other. And if you're smart, you'll learn that both of them work a lot better when they work together.
Unity is the key to a higher conscious humanity.
Agreed.
Look, when I had that dream, they told me that it's okay to be culturally prideful, right?
Mm,
However, unity is the key. So I don't understand a lot of the hatred and racism because I just don't understand it.
right.
But in spirit, there's no color. Like you feel me? When you
Agreed.
see spirit, like spirit don't see color, bro. Like it's not
Agreed.
like oh, because everybody's been somebody or got an ancestor, but the 3D mind can't wrap their minds around that. I got ancestors. I got Irish ancestors that come to me in my vision, Native ancestors, and African ancestors. So it's like I can't. My divinity come from
All over.
the shamans. Irish got shamans. Like people don't know that, but history, like people don't understand that there's so much more to humanity, and people like I've literally lived during the time of Adam and Eve. Like all the memories are coming back,
Hmm.
and so it's like people have no clue what's been conformed to control, and it's literally messing up household dysfunction. And
A lot of dysfunction.
oh my gosh, like so then you got all this dysfunction in these households. And then these God cannot put these pure souls into this flesh because it's so toxic.
It's a distraction.
It's these family curses and stuff that parents aren't attacking before having children.
But if you
Do
ever
that
think
hard
about it,
work, that spiritual work before you start having babies.
if you really
Everybody
think
the
about
baby.
it, a lot of these curses or negative seeds weren't planted to affect them at that time. They were planted to affect now. Because when you're planting a garden, when you're planting watermelon, orange trees, apple trees, or whatever it is, it's like you plant the seed because you're going to expect a harvest, not tomorrow, not next week, but in a couple of years, in a year's time, in a couple of years' time, you're expecting a full harvest, a full harvest. So at the end of the day, when you really think about it, a lot of seeds that were planted from our great grandparents, our great great grandparents, weren't to hurt them then. It was to break what's in now. To break what's in now, because at the end of the day, the enemy or the beast knew exactly what was going to be birthed before you knew you were going to be birthed, before your parents knew that you were going to be birthed. So the enemy knew that that seed had to be planted all the way back then to stop what was going to take place now. So the seed wasn't planted to affect them, it was to stop you, because he knew at the end of the day something was being planned. God had a bigger plan, God had something else in the works. So his plan was, if I do this now, then by the time it grows, it gets bigger, it gets bigger. I can create insecure. I could take things from the great great grandparents and give it to the great grandparents, then the
Generational
great.
wealth, right?
Exactly, it elevates, it grows. You get a harvest, because at the end of the day, they say, you reap
Family
what you sow.
curses is like standing in the way of that. So
Exactly. So like it's like planting. It's like, you reap what you sow. So whether a seed is a good seed or a bad seed, a seed is a seed with the intention to grow. You get what I'm saying? So whether it's a good harvest or a harvest is a harvest.
just don't grow with no bad soil.
Exactly. And the thing
Might
about it
not be no
is,
harvest.
the enemy knows which soil to plant. It's going to give him the biggest harvest. But the thing about it is, even with God creating us and God planting us here, he already knew what was going to happen, you know and all these things do is they push us into our gifts even greater, if that makes sense. I felt like I went in a little bit.
You know, let me be honest. As I step into my power and I see other powerful people um, that are not making it because of childhood trauma,
Hmm.
they cannot lift the vibration, or you got families that got strong lineages and everybody in the family powerful, but most of them slow because they just choosing to be just not like just choosing like you
Yeah.
know and it's like or they like raised with the abuse, the verbal abuse, where they condition in a false narrative.
Hmm.
um, you know what I mean? People I know that went to church and been kicked out and they ended up killing themselves because they
Hmm.
felt like no one loved them. And then you go to this narrative from the tribal narrative of like and it's like everything is off. And then you got
Agreed.
these global disasters, people killing each other, putting babies in trash cans. I tell people now is the time of revelations, but nobody they will listen. I'm not gonna stop.
Yeah, because we live in a cruel world.
Oh,
We live in a cruel world. And you made a comment about people who grew up in the church and they get kicked out of the church. And the thing about it is, it's so misconstrued because that wasn't the message that Jesus was trying to preach. I tell one of my friends all the time because he gets so caught up in being perfect. And I'm like, the disciples weren't perfect. The disciples weren't people who lived right, lived holy and thou. They were imperfect people, but Jesus knew he could trust them. You get what I'm saying? It's about really understanding your calling and functioning in your most authentic and true self. And with the church, it's supposed to be a hospital, but they expect you to come in not sick. Why? Churches become a show. Churches, preachers or pastors who are supposed to be given this platform by God to help people, they've become nothing but hyped up motivational speakers.
come
You know,
on. What you said, false prophets.
exactly.
It's,
Even a
I was
lot of
trying to tell them I'm
people.
a real like I done seen the future. Like, look, I talk to God. Like y'all here, like I and I didn't know this. when I went to church and saw how people would look like I would see through people like, you know what I'm saying? Then I would have one of my stepmother's friends, she would gave me this dirty look. I was like, oh, like girl, I already know it's popping. You feel me?
Facts.
Oh,
Facts. I agree with you 100%.
looking
It's
at you
just
crazy
it's a
with the side
mess.
eye, like girl, no, I
It's
need
a
to be looking at
mess.
you
It's
with
a
the
mess.
side
But they do that though. They do that
eye.
because that's how they're conditioned to do that because they're taught like that's how you protect yourself. I
But you know, at
noticed.
that time, you're
Hmm.
right, because at that time I didn't know who I was. So maybe that's a good thing because you know, that humbled me.
Listen, because when that gift kicks in and something gets revealed to you about that person, and you really know that you could sit there and you could end their life with one sentence, and that is my struggle. And it's so funny because I've talked to my sister about this before. I'm like, it's so many times I can see a person mistreating me or talking to me in some kind of way, and my thing is, sweetheart, I can see that closet that you think you can hide in. Those skeletons, they talk to me, and I would hate to have to repeat what they done told me, but I don't want to abuse my gift.
Okay, so I don't have that problem now. I think back when I was like didn't know myself or I was around those type of people. Now I'm too far into my gifts to really
Hmm.
for that to resonate. You see what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah,
but back when I was like years ago, when I was around that type of behavior, it was the same feeling. I don't. My anointings is at this stage. I don't get that.
hmm,
Thank God. Um, but when I was at that place where but let's keep it a buck. When stuff like that happens, because they're reflecting the feeling you feel about yourself.
you
You get what I'm
projecting your
saying?
own, but
Yeah,
projecting your
I
insecurities
gotta
onto
keep it
me.
a buck. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're looking at you nervous because they're like off because probably I probably was at that moment going through, you know, and but then my spirit was still talking too, so it was like I was straddling the fence. You feel me? Um, but it really is needs to be a new narrative on spiritual religion,
Agreed.
and it needs to be more unified
Agreed.
because we're. How do we fight racism and how do we fight? How do you fight? I don't. This is one thing I don't get. How are we fighting racism, but we still have so much division in media? I mean, not that I'm not, I'm just saying, like, just that's just a question in me. Like, I don't understand it.
I can't even really answer that question because it's like it's 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 such a what's the word? It's so many different aspects to it, you know. Like the division within the community, I feel like no, I'm gonna be very transparent. Sometimes, no, not sometimes. I'm being transparent, Russell. Um, I feel like a lot of the issues that we have within our community, a lot of the issues with racism, we've we've influenced it in a way because we don't check our own. We get so worried about what another race has to say about us. But at the same time, there are moments where we give them a reason to talk about us. And we won't check each other. Like we'll walk around, let me give you a prime example. We will sit there and we will know that there is a man walking around partying, buying drinks, making good money, and we will know that he'll have a kid that he does not take care of, and nobody will say a damn thing about it. Nobody will say nothing. We will sit there, look, the family child molester. We will protect him. We will protect him, but nobody will sit there and protect the gay innocent one who this who was touched by him. You get what I'm saying? So we don't protect ourselves and we don't hold each other accountable. So I personally, this is my perception, and it's a very different perspective that a lot of people wouldn't agree with. I feel like, we don't check each other enough. We don't keep each other in check enough. And we can't get mad at what other people say about us if we're not first sitting there making sure they don't have a reason to say these things.
I done seen races every day. Every race is racist. Got racist. Every race has got good. Every race has got good people. Every race has got bad people. I've seen it
Yeah.
all. I done lived in Korea. Grew up in Germany, Alaska. Like I done seen bad, different type of people. Um,
And really quick, and I don't mean to say this, I want to give clarity.
I done
I'm
had
not
racial
saying that,
slurs said to me by a black person. Talking about I don't look black enough.
uh, thank you, like me, and I want to give clarity. I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm not saying that it's okay for a white
Okay.
person.
In
I'm
that
not saying,
love, that's what they said to me. I'm like,
right, like, I'm not saying it's okay for a white person to
I'm
do
not
those
like that.
things, but I'm saying we have to hold each other accountable, you know?
As humanity, as
Exactly.
and
Like,
being able
it's your responsibility as one, my friend, as two, another person that's gifted. It is your responsibility and my responsibility to be like, hey, slow down before somebody else can say something to us, you know? Because at the end of the day, even though we're individuals, you still represent me in some way, form, or fashion. I still represent you in some way, form, or fashion. You get what I'm saying?
represent each other.
Exactly. Exactly. Because people will see this video and they'll be like, they'll see me going for it. Oh, but that's Josh's friend, you know? That's his friend. And if I'm sitting there not acting accordingly, they'll be like, like, this is his friend? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, what they call it, judge. All that, there's not enough righteous judgment. There's too much narcissistic
Agreed.
judgment.
Agreed.
Clear. You feel me? There is definitely a difference.
No,
um,
I agree with you 100%. And even the discussions that we have, these discussions, and this is why I think what you're doing is very important, is because these discussions, these dialogues have to take place because they're very honest, transparent dialogues, and they also bring up accountability. And that's the word I've been saying a lot the last couple of weeks, like the last month and a half, I want to say. It's been nothing but accountability has been the big word, you know? So I think what you're doing is very important. It's crucial to everything that's going on now because people need to have these conversations and be open and willing to have these honest dialogues. Because one thing I can sit there and say is I've been forced to be honest with myself. And if people see us having honest conversations, you being transparent about your journey, me being transparent about mine, it'll encourage other people to be like, wow, like let me take off the mask and really just start being who the fuck I am.
times are changing.
Agreed.
You know, I'm here to be a new spiritual influencer of true knowledge.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Um, Before there was man, before there was anything, there was knowledge, there was wisdom. And there's
Mm-hmm.
have been people here that lived way before. And so I just want to get rid of the false narrative of the true
Agreed.
teachings of a shaman. How important it is to pay attention to your spirit because there's unseen forces out here that take advantage of those that are coming from a place of lack, that are vulnerable, unseen that you cannot see. You could be out
Agreed.
here addicted to drugs, stuck on something, and it's something that somebody don't put on you, and you reading the Bible, but you ain't burning no sage, and you trying to figure out like what happened. You
Agreed.
know,
Because everything ties in together, and that's what people fail to realize. They think it's just one form. It's just one path to the spiritual journey, and it's not. The only thing that's really just one singular thing is it's your journey, your path, but it has different twists and turns and routes and different things that contribute to your journey. And when you really open yourself up to different things, like, okay, understanding the power of prayer, understanding the difference between spirituality and religion, and seeing how they work against and with each other, and really understanding, sage and different gifts and how they work, and that prophets are still alive and prophets are still alive and well. Like once you really open your mind to really what's going on, you really wow, like the
Well,
Bible
like there's
is
one set standard to like spiritual growth and
ex-
integrity. So that's the basis of what you're talking about.
exactly
It's a one set standard. It's no gray area. You don't get to not be a good person on this day. And be a good,
facts.
if you having a bad day, stay home and get it together.
Right, like and allow yourself, even though we're spirit, but also flesh, you have to allow yourself to be human. Allow yourself to be human, and it's okay to feel.
Well,
It is okay.
don't be, what's that word? Don't be stagnant in being human. That's not the your goal is to be a better version of yourself spiritually, to evolve spiritually. And once you get to that place, you don't even feel human because you're in this euphoria of peace and love and light.
Hmm.
Be outside of yourself. Be selfless. Have blind faith. Don't dwell on the past. Don't anticipate the future. You so content that you can just be righteous and live within for the present and let God
Right,
take it from there. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Agreed,
Now
agreed. Huh?
that's priceless.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's just it's a lot like engulfed in one. Um, but it's a consistent learning experience, you know? Like I said, with even with that previous person that we had talked about, it was a learning lesson, but at the same time I will say there were things that happened that I disagreed with, but there are the things that happened to where, it was a blessing at the same time, you know? And I think accountability kind of taught me that I'm also in control of some of these scenarios, you know? I'm also in control, and you know, it's with this particular person. It's like I've learned I should have been the friend the whole time and just kept it at that. I should have just been the friend and just kept it at that the whole time, and because I can't say that he's a horrible friend because he wasn't, you know, because he was definitely there through a lot of things. But I mean, it's just all a part of the journey. It's all a part of the journey. And I would encourage anybody who sees this video, get in tune with yourself, get in tune with your gift, take that time and really figure out who you are because, you know, it can be scary sometimes when you walk in your truth. But at the same time,
It's
once
not
you
fun.
once you tap
No,
into your peace, once you tap into
yeah,
peace,
yes.
it is one of the greatest feelings ever. Like my sister, like she's like, I love this, I love this, I love this, I love this you because she saw it there the whole time. And I'm just like, it's peace. And I guarantee you, once you get a taste of what peace feels like, you don't care if it's your mom, your brother, your cousin, your sister, your boyfriend, your pastor, whoever. You will sit there and cut every last one of them off before you ever lose that feeling of peace again. You know?
Peace is definitely what it is.
Agreed, 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 agreed.
Like you said, your the codependencies. I mean, from people, from substances, all that stuff. Once you start evolving to a better version of
Right,
yourself, all that stuff it falls off. You know what
right.
I mean? Um, I like amazing, amazing. So, as a medium, and did you feel like did you feel safe with my energy? Did you?
Yeah, because of how you
What
answer
have
the
you learned
questions,
from our sessions and um, from just being a servant of a Most High like God? What did you get from my presence?
it was very peaceful, calm, relaxing. It was like an instant safe place. And I could tell when we had our conversations, it was like it wasn't a matter of I'm here with alternative motive. It was nurturing at the same time. It was like you watched how you maneuvered the conversation, and I could tell you paid attention to my energy. So it was never no 1 minute it was high, 1 minute it was low. Like you really flowed with me in the conversation, which made it easy to navigate with everything that I was being told and everything I was hearing. The grandma conversation was like, wow, like this is legit real. And then the one where we had the conversation about the friend before the one that passed away, that one was definitely something that blew my mind. But it was like it was I got much needed closure and questions answered about a situation I've been wanting to know for a long time. So the experience was very nurturing. It was safe, and my emotions were protected in the process.
So spiritually, how do you feel you've grown spiritually
A
from?
lot.
Oh, air hug.
A lot.
I'm proud of you, friend.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's how I feel spiritually is it's to answer the question, um, confident, confident and assured. Um, I've learned to trust my gift. Instead of doubting it and being like, I'll get a message to give a person and I'll be like, well, what if I'm wrong or what if they reject it? But at the same time, the point of when you're delivering the mail, it's not your responsibility to make sure they read the mail, open it, pay that bill. My responsibility is to deliver the message and go on about my business. What you decide to do with this letter, what you decide to do with this piece of mail, what you decide to do with this bill, that's your business.
But you know, spirit, you're at a point where you got you do have some work to do spiritually.
Agreed.
And so you don't want to you don't want to be a be a medium or a shaman too quick, or it's a lot to handle. And I'm not saying we're just it does take a lot to handle. And I don't want to say you're not gifted. You got to learn to and this was spirit. You got to learn to decipher head voice from spirit voice.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? Um, um, so you do want to be careful with what you're saying and making sure that it's spirit. Um, and you let spirit just naturally flow through you. But you got to do this self love work.
Agreed.
So I don't want to. I'm not going. I just want to keep it above. You can't be gifted with the most high abilities until God sees that you are fully in love with yourself,
Agreed.
and that way He knows you are fully in love with Him. And God, and what Spirit is telling me is that you're still dealing with this codependency lack mentality of um, so I got daddy issues. Okay. Um, but I've been able to, like you said, heal that inner child.
Right.
Um, you've got some of that healing still to do.
Agreed.
And so I wouldn't try to tap into much of that until you get that work done. Because if you come from a place of like and you're still in this place of like just pain is still in you somewhere, you could very well not be giving God's message, but giving your message, and
Agreed.
that could produce karma, and and I'm only saying that because I've had a lot of healing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? And I wouldn't mind like um mentoring you on the medium side. You feel me? But
Mm-hmm.
as my client friend, I got to just keep it real, and because I want to see you at your best.
Agreed.
You know, so so I'm definitely have this a father figure coming in, and he as you were talking, I was getting this proud feeling of your growth that you have made, right? And you've literally done a lot of inner work with being able to transform your thoughts into positive thoughts. You've been
Right.
able to release codependency that didn't match yours. But in the phase that you're in right now, you've got to remember to um, God is gonna keep throwing the same test at you until it's He's gonna throw the same test at you until you master that that assignment. You know what I mean? And only
Mm-hmm.
because I've been there, like he'll throw the same type of person at you 3 times, and you got to make the appropriate decision every time, and it gets tiring. You know what I mean? And so we've been up here for an hour plus.
Yes, and my phone is like on 10%.
Thank you for coming to the spot, to the you know, and talking to your boy.
Thank you for having me. This was great dialogue. I appreciate it.
You know, I never knew you was gonna start up as my client, then be my friend, and so I'm happy to have you as my friend.
Likewise.
I'm
Likewise.
happy to see your growth. You feel me? And I'm gonna hit you up on the ground.
Please do.
All right. Think you gotta come back and kick it
Listen, you just let me know in advance and I will gladly come and sit with you and talk.
for so.
All right. Have a good night.
Yo, that was my boy. Um, so that was a good conversation. I'm happy. Right. So let me burn some sage for y'all. Right quick, like. All right. I will be having some real live readings as well. That was a reading, but that was also some knowledge and wisdom. Um, you feel me? Okay. I send love and light to all you beautiful souls. You don't have to know them to love them. You don't have to know them to wish them well.